we'll show you what we've learned, because we had so many customers that has the same problems, like the whole Apple, ATT, SCAD network. There are more questions than answers. So we'll try to discover, like, how can we actually make sense of the post-iOS 15 data. Next slide, please. Yeah, sorry, we don't have clicker because we wanted to start ASAP, so I'll use the help of my colleague. So this is sort of like automation, that we need to invent, just like with the SCAD network. I'll introduce you to Jack. Jack is not here, but you all know him. The next step is we'll talk about the life before and after iOS 14. This story is super familiar to all of you. So yeah, how does the SCAD network make Jack's job complicated? I think you can all tell me. So yeah, it's horrible. Then iOS 15, we think that it's good news, and I'll explain why. And then we'll look into data. This is actually the interactive part of the workshop, that will look what kind of data is important, and what you can actually do with it right now. You don't need to have a data science team. You don't need to have a data engineer. You don't need to call your engineers. We show you things that you can do right now. You don't need any like paid tools. This is like absolutely for free. This is like Google Spreadsheet plus Google Data Studio. Next slide, please. So here is Jack, like metaverse is in the house. This is how I got this picture. So he's your typical UA team lead. He like has 3 people on his team, 3 years of experience, and he makes all the choices on advertisement, so all blames goes on him. Why we can't scale our new app, Jack? Tell us. Next slide, please. Okay, let's go back into the past. So before that, the life was perfect. You know, like, okay, you have your ROI model, you know that you need to reach a certain benchmark, you invest in the channels, you experiment with creatives. So as you can see in this graph from App Annie, like the spend went through the roof, up until, next slide, boom, apocalypse. And this happened on 2020 WWDC. Basically, Apple said, like, well, in my opinion, they deprecated like IDFA like completely. Even though, like, okay, there are like 20% of people that share the IDFAs. Yeah, for me, I don't feel like it's statistically significant, and we should just let IDFA go and focus on some other things, right? Next slide, please. And this thing is the one to blame for all of the worst things that are happening in the UA Manager Live, right? I don't know, maybe afterwards we'll have a Q&A session in the end, and I just want to hear like what sort of like conversion rates do you guys see? But from what I've discussed with other UA managers, like, yeah, it's horrible, and it's like, it's not fixable in my opinion. Next slide. Well, but who we are, right? Who are these 2 person in hoodies? Boom. My name is Roman. I'm doing marketing, as you might have guessed or not. And here is...
I'm Meihan, and I'm from the data team.
Yeah, so basically, Meihan will take over on the second part, on the like data science part of the presentation. You might have known us from different companies like Tangent and Game Analytics. So basically, Growth FullStack is a new product that we have launched together. And the idea is that we're well known for attribution, but with the Growth FullStack, we also, like, we're super agnostic. And if you use any other sort of attribution, you can work with the Growth FullStack. So what is a Growth FullStack? So Jack needs, like, all the other ways to optimize the apps doesn't work now. So I think on iOS for sure, maybe on Android next year it also won't work. So Jack needs sort of like sandbox where he can play out his new ideas, his new hypothesis. And here is what we do in Growth FullStack. So we basically collect any sort of data that you need, put it anywhere you want, and then we connect the analysis tools that helps you to figure out what this data means. Moreover, next slide, please. We provide you with use cases. So, okay, I have like 500 rows of data or whatever, what do I do with it? And we give you, okay, you can do the LTV prediction. You can do the iOS15 comparison for the SCAD network. And we even on the marketing side, we're adding a new stack. It means like basically a partner or a new use case every week or every 2 weeks. So we're always working on adding new stuff. Next slide, please. So, okay, enough about us. Jack, this is what's important today. So this is like life of Jack before SCAD network. Everything is MMP. Next slide shows it better. So he gets all of his information from his MMP. He goes, he sees the ROI on the creative, country, source, whatever. MMP is his best friend. Next slide. Yeah, it gets a bit more complicated, and you'll see what. Boom, the data is dispersed now. So on SCAD network, you can't get the country anymore. You don't have a creative. You don't even have a cohorts. And the events that you have are actually like digits. And it looks like metrics. If you try it like binary, it's like, I don't know, install is 0001, and then trial start is a 00011. So no one can understand that, right? Next slide, please. And there is no real time. This is like super simplified. We try to simplify it, but still it's super complicated. You need to wait 2 timers. First one is fixed 24 hours. You wait, you wait, you wait. And then Apple turns on another timer, and then you don't even know how long is it, and you wait, you wait, you wait, and then they'll ping you with an install. So install might have happened like yesterday or 26 hours ago, and you have no point to pinpoint this install. From the privacy perspective, of course, it's perfect, but from the Jack's perspective, it's his worst nightmare. Next slide, please. Also, there is a privacy threshold. So for a number of events, and this number always fluctuates, on a daily basis, you won't get any sort of detailed data on the conversion values of the events from the SCAD network. I should also add, I completely forgot about it, for the SCAD network, for now, it's like for the self-attributed networks, like Facebook, Snapchat. Others are still like doing fingerprinting, so now it's like fashionable to call it like probabilistic attribution. Still like, okay, it's a fingerprinting, and at some point, yeah, I feel like Apple will put it to an end, and yeah, all other networks would do the SCAD network, right? Okay, next one. So here is how it looks before iOS 15. So there is an MMP SDK. It sends the information to Apple. Actually, not always, we have this here like MMP, but it's basically open source. Like all the documentation is available on Apple's side. So if you have a lot of resources, you can then, yeah, build it on your own. But it's a big headache, but you can do that. And then Apple directly sends the information to the ad network. And only then ad network would send it back to you or to your MMP. As you can see, the left arrow has a problem because ad network might not send you all of the data that it has, right? And we'll have like examples. Okay, next one. Okay, and iOS 15 is a good news for Jack. Why? Boom, because of this, if you notice at the bottom, there is a small arrow here. Now, together with information for the ad network, Apple is sending information to you directly. So now you can compare, like, okay, is the ad network sending me all of the data? Maybe they didn't want to show you the ad sources or something else. So this is like super cool, but you need to have some sort of like reporting to make sure that you can compare this data on a daily basis. Next, we'll have Mayhan's interactive part. So we'll look at the spreadsheet and Google Data Studio. We show specifically these tools because they're free to use. You don't need to have a data science, you don't need to be a data scientist, you don't need to have a license for it, so you can just build it yourself. If you have resources, you can build it yourself, show it to your engineering team, and they will build it on Tableau or any other BI tool. So yeah, enough me, then now it's Mayhan's part.
Yeah, so now, sorry, I have to sit down because I need to click. So I just want to show how the raw data looks like as a preview. So usually when you receive the data, you look something like this. Or if you use Growth FullStack or whatever tool you want to use, you'll receive this probably in a reporting tool, or you can just connect it, or maybe you can query it in a database. But in a more rough way is just export it in a spreadsheet, that's it. So usually you look at all this data and you're like, oh geez, it looks horrible, actually really ugly. But what we try to do is do some simple mapping, so trying to decipher what is what. So first of all is from what Roman mentioned before, for your scaled ad network, you need to set up your conversion value. And here we just give you an example how things are set up in this example. So for example, is it better? So here we only set up TL 000110 in a binary sense, but of course you can set up to 63, from 0 to 63. So in total there are 64 values. In a way, we actually have some recommendation for the clients with ad revenue app, how to set up conversion value. But here, this is not an ad revenue game, so we just take some examples here. But the idea is in order to do a proper visualization, you should always have a mapping in hand, so someone else can understand what you're doing. Same goes on the ad network here. This is the actual ad network. This is actual data, what Apple sent us or sent to you. So this is also incomprehensible. So by having a mapping table, here we don't want to disclose which network is what. So we just say it's ad network A, B, C, D, E. But the idea is the same, we just do a simple mapping so that one can tell which network is it. Same goes on the source ID. Source ID in the previous genre, it means site ID, just means where does the app comes from. So with the source is actually actual source. So you can always check what app is it. So now if I click, so you can always play around with the data you got, and then you'll know, oh, actually this source comes from TikTok, and then can do further cool thing with it. So after you did the mapping, this is a simple VLOOKUP that anyone can do, I suppose. It's annoying, but it's how it works in spreadsheet. So you have some kind of VLOOKUP, and then you'll have all your value in the following column. And here's how we visualize the data in dashboard. So we just did a simple dashboard in Google Data Studio, and the reason being it's easy to use and it's free. So how to connect the data source in Data Studio is quite straightforward. All you have to do is select where is your data from. You also can connect it to Postgres or Redshift, Amazon Redshift, or BigQuery, anything. But Google Sheet also works. So that's what we did here. And then, so here we want to give some example of what one can look at in this crazy, complex data set in a way that is really not clear. So first thing we always recommend look at is look at the time development. It's a really general view, but it gives you an understanding of how different conversion values develop over time. And then one thing one need to note is actually, we choose to only analyze or look at the data with the didWin equals to true. So in a way, actually, Apple can also send didWin equals to false to the advertiser. Reason being, like, it's also possible to receive a postback for the install that didn't win at the first place. It's really new concept, but we just want to point out, like, it's something to be noted. Like, you should focus on the one that actually wins the conversion. So the second view is, like, you can do some granular like analysis into individual ad network performance against the different conversion values. So let's say, if I need to zoom in a bit, let's say if you wanna track down certain conversion value, let's say for you maybe the purchase bigger than 5 is the most important thing, then you're like being able to decipher when does this thing actually happen for this specific network. But it's really difficult to compare network to network. So what we now like recommend to do is actually to do a like 100% chart. The reason being, like, let's say here, let's say we wanna decipher purchase bigger than 3. Oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong one. So, okay, now it's slow. But the point being, like, being able to like focus on specific conversion value, you can see how the ad network cannibalize each other. So sometimes when some networks scale up for certain conversion value, for you it might be like purchase value bigger than $100. Imagine you have a gambling app. Then when you scale up one ad network, it might actually cause the other network their value to decrease. Like, for example, here, if you see this one growing, this one actually decrease. So being able to do a proper testing based on the same timeline is what we recommend to do. And then here is another similar concept is with the source app. So earlier you see, like, with different source, you can actually map it with the actual app. Obviously, they will never be equal, so you will never have a scenario where all your install conversion coming from all the different sources are all equal. So here you see you have more conversion coming from the Zen app. In this way, it's calm, and then less conversion coming from the social, as in total. But if, once again, you plot it in a 100% chart, you can actually try to optimize on the source ID level. So for example, here you can see the source app, which in the previous slide, we know the source app of social is actually TikTok. So on this slide, you'll know, like, actually, even though TikTok has a least sum of conversion values in this period of time, but actually when you break down in a 100% chart, you see, like, actually TikTok the conversion value for trial start is much bigger than all the other app. So it can mean a lot of things. It can mean, like, let's say if trial start is your most important metric to track, or something you want to optimize the most, you can actually try to scale up your traffic from TikTok. But this is a really general, like, trying to visualize everything in one thing, in one dashboard. But this is what we recommend to start, is by the ad network level and also the source app level, as it's the data is there, and it basically you don't need anything to build this. And then if anyone wants any dashboard help, like we are happy to like share this or the mapping. That's for the easy visualization part.
Yeah, we're planning to send this over to all of the attendees. So because all you came, just tell us, and we'll send it to you this week. So it's like, the idea is that you just replace the values with your values in the spreadsheet, and it all goes in this like data studio template. So it's not, not too much hassle. Quick summary, we met Jack, you already knew it. After iOS 14, it's just got a little bit more complicated. iOS 15 is actually good news. We looked at the data, you'll get the templates, just let us know. Now we're happy to do the QA section, so just raise your hand and we'll answer your questions.
For the source, because it comes kind of anonymized, right? How did you actually identify that it was TikTok?
Oh, it's not. So it's just actually this like 6 or what digits. So it goes in Apple. Maybe the reason for the confusion, usually ad networks tries to anonymize it, so you won't go to the source, right? But when it's delivered by Apple, there is no anonymization. So you just take these 5 digits or whatever, paste it in the browser, or ask your engineers to give you a parser. And this is like this one thing actually that did not exist before with IDFAs, because everyone was so clamped to their sources and we're not sharing it. But Apple doesn't care. It's not their business. So it's available. So yeah, just make sure that a user is iOS15 user. Now it's not like 100% of the users, it's like 40% or 50%. To make sure that you're looking at the data set received from Apple, right? And that you're collecting it. And you need to have like a specific work to be done, like either by your MMP or you internally, that actually makes this call to Apple. And then boom, you have it. Yeah, it's a bit of a hassle, but yeah, you can get it. It's not decrypted. Yep, no worries. Any more questions? If there are no questions, I have 2 more like things that I forgot to ask you. Just also like raise your hand if you know what the ETL is. No one knows, super. And second thing, do you know what the data pipeline means? Okay, 1 person. Okay, super. No, this is just like from a marketing perspective, this is what we do. And this is what we basically trying to figure out, how to sell this sort of like really technical products, because no one knows what that means, and how to like enable and boost the advertisers to do that, right? Because ETL is basically, I take the data from whatever I want, iOS15 data, I put it into my data warehouse or even a Google spreadsheet, and I connect Google Data Studio, and that's it. Okay, in that case, thank you very much for attending, guys. Yeah, let us know if you have any questions, we'll be around. Thank you.